what I really want to make sure that people understand is that, I'm in entertainment, which is sexy, which is where I always wanted to be, but I had to learn how to do business to be able to earn the right to be in entertainment. And just because I'm in entertainment, that's my story. I don't want people to turn off their brain to listen to stories, because what works for me in entertainment will work. As you know, I've used the same principles in my business and that I use for 3,000 other clients around the world. So even though I'm going to talk about things that are fun and sexy, it will work in your garbage business too, or in your fitness business, or in your maid service business.
The Business Owner's Journey. I'm Nick Berry, and I've got real business owners telling their real stories, sharing their real lessons and strategies, so you don't have to figure it all out on your own. Nick Nanton is an entrepreneur and a 22-time Emmy Award-winning director and producer. He's worked with legends like Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Dolly Parton, Dick Vitale, and Larry King, and me. Nick and I were among the co-authors of The Only Business Book That You'll Ever Need, and have collaborated on several businesses in the past. I've been fortunate enough to have known Nick for a long time, and I'm really excited to have had him on. The list of people that he has worked with is a who's who of prominent figures. But what does it really take to earn the right to be creative at the highest level? Nick and I talk about the business side of creativity and what it means to design your business with intention, how to find mentors who can accelerate your growth, and the tension between the visionary ambition and the practical realities of scale. You can expect to learn the difference between self-awareness and self-consciousness, why most businesses stall at the team building stage, how to identify your unique ability, what EOS and Strategic Coach did to change the game for Nick, and then how he's applied those lessons to build award-winning documentaries, global music ventures, and a creative life on his own terms. Whether you want to be the quarterback or the coach or the owner of your own business, this conversation is going to challenge how you lead and how you build. So let's get into it.
I'm currently ranked in the top 5% of songwriters in the world. And just some things that I just interviewed: Dolly Parton, Kris Jenner, Keith Richards, Joan Jett, Jelly Roll. And what you probably don't know about me, I'm deputized as a sheriff's deputy for undercover work in human trafficking. I've done 12 docs on anti-human trafficking, probably the most to anyone in the world. And Sound of Freedom is based on one of my documentaries, and we're developing Sound of Freedom 2 right now. So there's a couple of things that most people just don't know that we could talk about if you want.
You mentioned this list of people that you had most recently interviewed, and what is that a part of?
I'm finishing up Kathy Lee Gifford's life story with her right now. So one of it's part of that. And then I'm also doing a documentary on the Hit Factory, which is the most successful recording studio in history. I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston was recorded there. My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion, Born in the USA. Uptown Funk, I just interviewed Mark Ronson. I haven't announced it yet. I don't know how long before this comes out, but I don't mind talking about it. I'm doing the Blind Boys of Alabama's documentary, which is, the longest touring act in history. And I've got, most likely Barack Obama, Stevie Wonder, like just some wild interviews for that. So yeah, dude, we just go wherever's fun. I mean, I'm an open book, so let's talk about it. Cause I think what I really want to make sure that people understand is that, I'm in entertainment, which is sexy, which is where I always wanted to be, but I had to learn how to do business to be able to earn the right to be in entertainment. And just cause I'm in entertainment, that's my story. I don't want people to turn off their brain to listen to stories, because what works for me in entertainment will work. As you know, I've used the same principles in my business and that I use for 3,000 other clients around the world. So even though I'm going to talk about things that are fun and sexy, it will work in your garbage business too, if you want, or in your fitness business, or in your maid service business, whatever. Right.
Right. Yeah. So that's such an interesting thing for you to see what you're doing now, because, when I met you, at first it was an attorney, right? And I think we were doing some working on the franchise and books. And so that's where I got introduced to the business side of Nick Nanton. And now it's like come full circle. And really the whole time, Nick, you were creating your story, which is a lot more in the entertainment side of things. And so it's been cool to see you figure out the business component to let it take you where you're at, where you wanted to be the whole time, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I started out, I started playing guitar at 6. I don't know how wide the shot will be if people can see it, but I've got a bunch of my guitars behind me and stuff. But I'm playing guitar at 6, started songwriting. I don't remember. I got to look it up, but either 15 or 16, put out my first record at 18. And I always want to be, first a singer songwriter. Then I realized, and we could talk a lot about this too. I mean, I tell my kids there's a fine line between self-awareness and self-consciousness. I think self-awareness is one of the most important skill sets for everything in life ever. Self-consciousness is when you get in your head and you wonder what people are saying about you. So like stay out of that side, stay in the self, but you need to be self-aware. Right. So I realized when I was playing and singing in college and, go Gators, by the way, just won that national championship. I'll take
Congrats.
it. Thank you. I'll take it. But when I was playing at bars in Gainesville and stuff and working with friends, I mean, I realized pretty quickly that, I mean, I can turn a tune, I can sing, but like I couldn't sing as well or even play guitar as well as like a lot of my buddies. And I was like, okay, well, like I either got to double down on this and try to become, better at it. Or actually now I would quote my friend Sally Hogshead, she says different is better than better, right? Like you can't be better than most people, or like there's always someone gonna be better than you, right? So if you're starting out in the business world, like trying to be, if you're going to try to be better at something, you better try to be really nichey better. Other than that, just try to be different, because different is so much easier to win at.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized I either got to double down on being really different. I can get a little bit better, but I just don't have the natural gifts that some of these people do. And that's just the truth. Like I'm 5'8" on a good day, dude. I'm not going to make an NBA team. I just got to know this. Right. And so I realized that I wasn't, people weren't going to fill arenas to hear me sing. So, all right. So I'm going to start writing and managing, started managing bands and doing things, and just started working. And it was very evident to me very quickly, with all the help they needed, how much most of the bands and musical people I worked with had no idea about business. And it was pretty natural to me, because I'd had to become entrepreneurial at a pretty young age to make ends meet and to sort of buy some things I wanted and get the coaching I wanted and whatever. And so I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to make it most likely wasn't going to make it as a singer songwriter. So let me go ahead and just delve further into songwriting and then get into music management and stuff. So I started with my business partner, Jack, who, he's retired now, but, he helped me with music, and he's like, man, this is the toughest business I've ever seen. And he basically said, look, if you would do the same things you're doing, because I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was building brands for bands. I was, at the time I was designing their logos. I was sometimes doing the photography, sometimes editing their music videos, producing their records. And we had to do it on a level where we were getting distribution at the time when there's still like CD stores. Like I'd produce a band in Gainesville and we'd have it mixed by a great mixer, and we could get into record stores. What I didn't realize at the time is no one knew it was in a record store if we didn't have the money to market the fact that it was there. So we ended up pressing a bunch of CDs that ended up just getting mailed back to us later. So it was like a nightmare, right? You press 10,000 CDs or whatever, you get these orders, you send them out, and then 6 months later they come back and you got to refund them all. So he's like, man, this is a tough business. Just do that for entrepreneurs and you could have a great living. And so that's how the Celebrity Branding Agency came about, which is how you and I started working together. I still own that business. I've got, I think, 19 team members who run that business. I spend about 20 to 30% of my time in that business, and the rest of my time songwriting, directing documentaries, and most importantly, operating within my unique ability, which is, a Dan Sullivan concept. I'm great friends with Dan from Strategic Coach, and my unique ability is having meaningful conversations that lead to produced outcomes. And that's how esoteric it is. And that's what you can do. So you asked me to have a conversation on the podcast. Great to catch up with you. No problem. If you'd said, hey, Nick, will you write a book for me? I'd either say no, or if it was worth it, I'd have a meaningful conversation with a ghostwriter and they would produce the outcome of the book. I have meaningful conversations on my podcast. I have meaningful conversations behind the camera on my documentaries. I have meaningful conversations in front of the camera in my Amazon series on Amazon Prime. So anyway, we've gone all over there, but I guess the bottom line, and I'll be quiet and let you ask more questions. But the bottom line here is that it's funny. I used to say, hey, because I do a lot of documentary work and raise a lot of money and stuff from business guys. And so I used to say, you know what, you don't have to worry, because I can deliver on budget, on time, every time, because I'm a business guy first, creative guy second. So don't worry, I understand you. But I realized that actually wasn't true. When I really analyzed, like, I was a creative guy first who had to learn how to do business to afford to be creative, to earn the right to be creative. But I understand how business works. I am an entrepreneur, so we speak the same language. And so that's sort of a little bit of my journey to get here, and we can go wherever you want.
I love it. I knew what to expect. I think it sounds like you're talking what you just described there. One of the things you just described there was kind of recognizing that you may be more visionary than integrator, to use the EOS language, right?
Yep.
So what was Jack? Because I remember you guys working together quite a bit. So how did he fit into that? Was he one or the other, or did he influence you to kind of become more aware of which you really were?
Yeah. So the first thing, so I'll give a bit of backstory. I met Jack when I was 15 or 16, when my cousin who was living with me, we're from Barbados. My cousin moved up to do high school, his last 2 years of high school in the US with me. We live in the Orlando area. I still do. But I was born in Barbados. And so we met through his daughters, who my cousin met going to a Christian camp called Young Life, right? And so I met Jack, and he was an attorney, didn't practice law, lived in a big house, was an entrepreneur. I'm like, that's my guy. Like, this is my guy. And so I lost touch with him. I went to college. His daughters went to college with me too. And then a buddy of mine in college started dating his daughter, and I reconnected with Jack, and he started the company with me. So number one things I'd always say is find a mentor, right? Number one, if you can't afford to pay for a mentor, like, I've apologized in person and we're good now, but like my tennis coach in high school, I was like in the top 50 to 100 in the state of Florida, getting recruited, playing college, all that. And my tennis coach gave me a pirated set of Tony Robbins CDs. And so, like, if you can't afford a coach or can't afford, I'm not advocating for piracy. I hate it, actually. But, you do what you got to do, right? And I couldn't afford a $2,000 set of CDs at the time. So my buddy gave it to me. And like, thankfully now we've got audiobooks and podcasts and regular books and all the things. Like, you can get access to knowledge. So find a virtual mentor if you can't find the real mentor first. But then find a real mentor. Because someone asked me the other day, Nick, how did you learn to scale your business? And I was like, man, Jack and I went into business together when I was 22. And I was like, maybe 21, 22. I'm getting so old, I can't remember anymore. I'm 45 now. It's like everything's going, right? All the dates are going. So I was like, and every time we would start something, he would just say, hey, yeah, we need to bring in someone to help with it. And so Jack and I really are both visionaries, but he's 30 years older than me. So he had the experience of having to hire people and bring in people to integrate his ideas. So I never had to have that like uncertainty that I can remember of like, oh my gosh, should I hire somebody? Can I afford their salary? Can I not afford their salary? Like, I go from having to be responsible for one mouth to feed to two mouths to feed. Like, I had some of those thoughts, but it was just like, no, this is what we're doing. And because I had so much confidence in him as a mentor, I really never questioned it. So I would say we both are integrators. For a long time, his daughter, Lindsay, we're both visionaries. For a long time, Lindsay, his daughter, ran our business as an integrator. She's now a stay-at-home mom. But like, I think we played really well together in visionary world together. It's funny because we really like best friends in that, like, we would brainstorm 3-4 hours a day, but then we would have a team that would execute. Like, I'd go out and speak on the road. I'd go out and execute on the documentary stuff. I go out, but really, I really blessed with this from the beginning. I never really had to worry about being an integrator. I've always had to do certain things, but it was like, oh, no. Like, he realized, like, in looking back, because he had 30 more years experience than I did in life, that like, Nick doing invoicing is a really bad use of his time, right? And the cool thing is he had another business. So we were able to take on some people fractionally, which you can still do but it was like really easy to step in and like get some shared help. And so that was a big blessing, because I think I see a lot of people who get stalled at scale because of the paralysis of how much money they need and all that. And another big lesson I think I'd put in that same vein, when I came out of law school, I was working with Jack at the time for another company he had, and I couldn't make ends meet because we had the real estate crash. I needed to make $100,000 a year, at 24, just to pay student loans. My wife had our first son a week after I took the bar exam. Just all the things. And so one of the things I learned from Jack was really interesting. Was like, Jack, I got to make $100,000 a year. Is like, great. You don't need $100,000 right now. You need like $8,000 a month. So like, let's just focus on making you $8,000 a month, and the rest will come. Like, oh man, that makes sense. Cause like, I'm thinking, before I start, I got to have $100,000, and you don't. Like, and quite frankly, if you can't figure out by month 3 or 4 how to make $8,000 in that month, then you got a different issue to solve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of blessings from him. By the way, just in EOS world, Gino Wickman, good friend of mine. Gino's an investor in my bourbon with Chris Voss. It's just funny. I didn't integrate EOS. I didn't have the right team to do it until when COVID happened. Jack retired. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go all in on EOS. And I would tell anybody listening, it is absolutely life-changing. Like, people told me it would be, and it is. I don't think you can do it effectively without an implementer. I really don't. You need someone from the outside to make you have harder conversations than most are willing to have on their own. And probably the two things that I've done in that world that have changed my life the most would be Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan and EOS. I would absolutely advocate for those two things. If you're stuck in your business, you don't know what to do next, you got to invest in yourself. Those are two places I would start.
I totally agree. Yeah. I listened to your interview with Gino.
Yeah.
So I did EOS in like 20, maybe 14
Okay.
when there were like 4 implementers in the world. Like
Yeah.
Gino is who sold me. He was still doing it then. Like, so, I mean, and it was life changing, right? There were so many so many questions that you have as an entrepreneur that you're like, you may not even realize it, right? It's like there are these challenges that are in front of you that are not getting solved, and they're like, maybe it's recognition of blind spots, I'm not sure, but I remember through the first half of the day in the workshop with Gino walking out of there, and I told my wife Kelly, I was like, that's it. Like, all these things that have been plaguing me in my mind, I now understand how to get the answer. Like, you didn't tell me the answer, but there's a method for finding the answers, and it just like turns you loose. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, one of the things when I went in, so I brought back a guy who used to work with me years ago. I was like, hey, read this book, and if you he had gone off to chase some other opportunities, but was looking to change again. I was like, hey, well, if you want to come back, read this book, and maybe you can help me, integrate this stuff. Turns out he was a bad integrator, but great human, just not his gift either. I mean, he's more visionary too, which is fine. But when we went to the first meeting with our implementer, one of the most eye-opening things, and again, like I don't do nuts and bolts of business, but I'm a visionary. But one of the coolest things of like, he's like, all right, so let's break down your business. And he's like, he even broke at the very beginning. He's like, we can break it down however you want, but basically it's sort of like there's like an operations seat, there's like a sales seat. It could be maybe sales and marketing. There's a finance seat. And then he was like, there's 2 of you. Who's going in these seats? I was like, oh man, I never thought of it this way. And so then we had, the way they do the first typical EOS meeting now is like you have your first one, your first start meeting, and then 30 days later you have your second one because you've sort of started learning the system, and now we're going to get serious. And so between the first meeting and the second meeting, I'd hired 2 more people to fill the seats. He goes, well, this is the fastest growth I've ever seen in a company. You doubled your seats. I'm like, well, but it became just something as simple as that became so obvious that like one person can sit in all these seats, but like when you see it, like, somebody's going to run fine. And when it's laid out, even in a very simple 4 boxes on a board, you're like, oh man, I could never be effective doing all of these things. First of all, most of them give me hives. Like I just can't do it anyway. And then, one of the other biggest, ahas for me in my life, because it's so countercultural to what most people as they call the hustle porn of the day. Like you just got to work harder, you got to grind more, you got to like whatever. It's like Dan Sullivan's whole who not how concept, right? Like you've gotten to where you are in life by being who you are and being spectacularly good at a few things. Get rid of the rest and find who's. Like as my friend Dean Jackson says, who up your time. You got to who up your time, and get some more who's. And so I would say to anybody who's like on the edge of breaking through and a little bit nervous, like that means growth is around the corner. As Jack Canfield says to me, and by the way, I don't name drop, I just give credit where it's due, right? Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul. He said, Nick, if you want to capture something amazing, you got to let go of something really good or even great. And so if you're on that cusp, like realize that you cannot be world class at more than maybe 1 or 2 things, right? That's it. And so if you want to run a world-class business, if you want the ability, and again, I don't want to forget to say this. So I was interviewing Richard Branson, right? And I was interviewing Richard Branson for my documentary on Peter Diamandis, the founder of the X Prize. So Peter created a prize for space flight because Peter he got an MD from Harvard and a master's from MIT, did it at the same time. And when he graduated from medical school, he was running a rocket company during medical school. And the dean of the medical school was like, hey, I will let you graduate. You're a great student, but I will only let you graduate from medical school under one condition. He goes, what's that? He goes, you promise me that you never will practice medicine because that is not what you want to do. You want to chase space. And so he realized that NASA wasn't going to be putting up more people in space. And by the way, funny but not funny joke, if you become an astronaut, you don't go to space, they call you a penguin because you never got to fly. So anyway, so Peter creates a prize to help put him and his friends in space. And it's called the X Prize, and Richard Branson ends up buying it, becomes Virgin Galactic, right? So I go to interview, it's the 10-year anniversary of the prize being won, Richard buying it. I go, why didn't you Peter came to you 2 times while he was raising the money to raise the $10 million, and you didn't give it to him. You ended up buying the technology for a lot more. Like, why didn't you just buy it, dude? And he's like, you know what, Nick? He goes, Peter came to me twice and foolishly I passed. At Virgin, we're always strapped for cash and doing too many things. And it really didn't hit me till like a year later. I was like, wait a minute, this dude's a billionaire. And he told me he's always strapped for cash and doing too many things. And it sort of gave me like an aha and like an exhale, like, oh, let me just own it. It's always going to be this way. So like if I gave anyone on this listening to your podcast $100 million, like it'd be really exciting for the first day, maybe first month, maybe go on a big vacation, buy a big home, like whatever. But within like 2 weeks to 30 days, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to get restless and you're going to see like, you know what, man, I would love to put some of this money into my church to help its missions. Man, this person is doing awesome. This guy, I love this guy with his lawn service. He could be something. I'm gonna put some money. And before you know it, you're going to be strapped for cash and doing too many things. You're just going to be right back to square one. So just own it. And so what you got to realize is this, I like to refer, whatever your faith is, it is anyone listen. I'm Christian. My friend of mine at church said, hey, you know what, Nick, a lot of people have a hard time with the Bible because God is good all the time, but bad things still happen. He goes, just think of it as a hammock. And the only way you can relax in that hammock is because there's tension on both sides. And I feel like entrepreneurship is the same thing. Like that Richard Branson thing is like the only reason I get to enjoy that nice dinner, or I get to live on a lake, or I can take my family on a nice vacation, or drink that nice bottle of wine, or go to that nice dinner, or do it, is because I can live in the tension of being between broke and billionaire at all times. And you just got to own it. You just got to understand it. And by the way, it's way easier to give this advice and laugh about it when you're up on that swing. When you're down on that swing, like, man, we've had just a couple things haven't gone right in the last 6 months. Biggest cash crunch in my life, biggest puckering I've ever had in my life, because the stakes are just higher, man. They're just higher. But I've had to learn that, like, again, based on my faith, I believe God's gone before me and prepared a way. I've got to do the best. If I don't do the best with the talent he's given me every day, I'm failing him. Like, that's my only job, is to do the best I can with what's in front of me and to serve other people well. But at the end of the day, man, I can't control it all. So I just gotta do the best I can. And so I think where people get like and again, that advice is way easier to give than to take. It's way easier to give and take when things are on the upswing. But letting go and allowing people who are better than you to help you and you serve them is like one of the most rewarding things ever in not only life, but business. And that's the only way to grow.
Did that always come pretty easily to you, or did you have to have it? Did you have to get pushed a little bit?
Oh man, I have the attention span and the memory of a squirrel. And so it's funny, like I relearn the same lessons every freaking day. I'm like, I'm like, oh man, like, I'll be like 90% down the road. Like, oh man, I've been here before. I know better than this. But it's interesting because the opportunities look really different. And obviously, pattern recognition is a big deal. And my pattern recognition isn't broken. I can tell you that. I mean, it's done all right. I've done all right for myself, but it is fascinating when, we all have biases, and when things are going well, it's like, I was listening to a podcast here today, the founder of Tiger 21. And for those of you who don't, Tiger 21 is really like a high net worth mastermind group. And it's really designed for people who've had a massive exit from business, net worth of about 50 million or more. And one of the things the founder was saying, that when someone sells a business, that's pretty much against all odds, basically. And so they have a bias. They can just do it again really easily. So most people tend to lose a lot of money the second or third time because they realize like everything worked out right the first time or whatever time they did it. And so, and a lot of times, you discount the fact that it took you, like, I've been in this business now, I think this is year 17 of me sort of going out on my own. And it's like, you had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way to get to this hopeful, like, peaks and valleys, but the peak ends up really high and you sell. And, you learn a lot, but a lot of people, you think you can recreate that instantly in 2 years or 3 years or some number. And so, I'm an idiot, man. I relearn the same lessons a lot. I mean, I take a lot of the lessons with me, and I think I've learned, I have 2 or 3, like EOS would call it, like 3 uniques. I probably got 2 or 3 unique things that if I bring it to any business, it can make an impact. And that's like, forming the bourbon with Chris Voss has been really interesting because I've been able to, like, it's the first time in a long time I've started it's not just a project, it's a business. And I have investors and I have shareholders and I have so I've been able to see, all right, where can I shortcut with my skill set? And then, oh yeah, I've seen this in my agency. I need someone in the finance seat. I need someone in the sales seat. It's been interesting, but yeah, it comes hard every day, man. comes hard every day.
Well, so I want to go back before we finish and get a little bit more, if you don't mind sharing about you mentioned the difference in self-awareness and self-consciousness. Where do you think you got that from?
A couple things. So, I mean, I have pretty severe ADHD. Now, that is one of the best adages in the world is every sword cuts both ways. I think it has been a massive competitive advantage to me in some ways and a massive detriment if I don't have people help me with the things I'm really bad at. Like if anyone here is familiar with the Colby score, like I'm a 10 quick start and a 2 follow through, right? So like I can, like if me and you agree we're going skydiving today, like if you don't show up, like I'm pissed. Like when I was little, my parents couldn't tell me the day before we were going to Disney because like if there's a hurricane the next day, like I'm pissed because like you said we're going to Disney. I don't care come hell or high water. You said, right? So people often think like if I have a phone call with them that like I'm rushing to get off the phone with them. No, I'm like hanging on like a squirrel on a power line. Like if we talk like in the wind, like and we agree to do something, like I'm trying to hang up because if I don't do it right now, it's never gonna happen. So I have had to learn how to get people to help me along the way because of the fact that I have some skill sets that are, I can hyper focus. So like, and that I'm having other people who can catch the back end of the things that I actually shouldn't be doing, but they're not my skill set. And so for the self-awareness part, I just had to be very self-aware, like that being bad at something, there's no shame in it. Like that's a really interesting thing, right? I mean, one of the hardest parts, and it's just because of the nature of life, like, grade school, middle school. I mean, it's a pressure cooker, man. And so many of us carry baggage with us that we just don't even realize from teachers and peers and everybody does track and field or whatever. And it's good for everyone to try it. But, a lot of kids will make fun of you if you're not good at sports. A lot of kids are like, or if you're not good at music. I mean, it depends on whatever programming. If you're not good at drama and you got to do the acting class to get the credit you need to graduate, whatever it is, like, or the speaking class. But so I think I learned somewhere along the way, thankfully, I was good enough at a few things that I had, and I had really great parents. I've had really good support systems and all that stuff. Like I don't know what it's like to not have that to start with in life, right? So that's first. Like I definitely building on a strong foundation of of security and faith and things like that, right? We didn't have any money. We were more or less, broke immigrants a lot. I mean, not totally broke, but if I felt the financial pressures my parents felt of moving to a new country and trying to make it, right? But I had that foundation. And so I think I had enough self-confidence to learn that like, oh, you know what? I'm just never going to be great at that. And so, making records in college, one of the things that really taught me, it was like, I was producing records and like, I was a hack producer, but like, oh man, this dude is like, I've been playing guitar since I was 6, but this dude is way better than me at guitar. And like, he'll play the whole record for like, a 12 pack of beer and 3 McDonald's meals. Like we could afford that, guys. Let's pay that guy instead of us trying to do it. And then, oh, we got this drummer who's had a major record deal. He's been on the road with Sister Hazel and Backstreet Boys. He'll drum in the studio for us for $50 a song. Let's use that guy. And so it was like, well, man, we could try to do this on our own, but we're surrounded by people better than us. Like we could be egotistical about it, like, man, I got to play my own drums on my own record. Or we could be like, you know what? Let's just let the guy who's great at playing drums play the drums and let's just do the rest. And so I think I learned mostly from failure of like, I've always been able to, I don't know if this is a gift or just against of, I've always been able to hear something like on the radio and I'd hear what I was doing and I've been able to say, oh, that's as good, or man, that's nowhere near. And if that's nowhere near, like, what do I need to do? And who can help me figure this out? And it's just, that breeds self-awareness because you have, like, if you want to compete on a global scale, even at the time, even on a local scale with college bands or whatever, like, the world is a competition, man. I mean, it's a collaboration too, but you got to be able to compete. You got to be like, if there's, like, I tell people, like, I have a place in Nashville. I've been writing there for 25 years. So I finally got a place recently. I have a whole list. Whenever someone goes to Nashville, I text them this list of like all my best advice, best places to eat, best place to whatever. And I don't like to brag, but I'm pretty good at eating. So if anyone needs it, they can hit me up. But like, I always say, look, Broadway, lower Broadway, where all the bars are, every band there pretty much plays for free. They play for tips. And so typically the later in the day it gets, the better the bands are. The later at night, the better bands play because they get drunk people, we give them bigger tips. But there's always great music and there's always crappy music. So because there's 3 floors now to every bar, and there's 100 of them in the 3 blocks. So just keep going. Don't settle for bad music. Just keep going till you find something you love. So like, you go on the first floor, well, you don't love it, go to the second floor. You don't love it, go to the third floor. You don't love it, go to the next bar. And so, because the world is a competition now, the good news is the person who's probably a 4 out of 10 probably still making some money on the right day in Nashville when it's busy, but the 10 out of 10 is going to make more money every time. And like, if I'm a 4 out of 10, well, what is it that I'm missing? Like for me, like I said, I'm currently ranked in the top 5% of songwriters in the world, which literally makes me hundreds of dollars a year. So don't be jealous. But I'm there because I know my ability, and I'm actually not the best lyricist or melody guy I know. I mean, I had to write the other day. I'm writing with the guy who plays keys for Third Day. He's in the band Third Day. He's got like 6 Grammys. He's a key player for Luke Bryan on tour right now. He's got multiple number ones. The other guy in the room's got 16 number ones and multiple Grammy nominations. The other guys, so it's a room of 4 guys, and between all of us, so I'll just exclude me, they got like 8 Grammys and 25 number ones. Like, but I used to be self-conscious of like, dude, how do I even stack up to these guys? But what someone told me along the way is like, hey, Nick, you know what? We know you don't, like, these guys write 2 songs a day every day. They're like, we know you're out like making movies. We're like, you don't practice enough to be as good as us. And you know what? Totally great, because you save your ideas for big days. Like, we got to come up with new ideas. You'll save your ideas for a month and come in and write too, and you got great ideas because you've been out in the world doing while we've been holed up here. And even better yet, like, if we write a song with you, we know for the most part it's for it's going to go somewhere. It's not just to write a song because we got to write a song. So we love the fact that you're bringing something different to the table. Don't worry, we got you on the rest. And it's like, oh, because like the self-consciousness would be like, man, I can't beat this guy's lines. Right. And I get my share in, like, 25 to 50% of lines I can get in. But like, I had to be like, dude, there's nothing, I don't need to be ashamed of that. That's great. Like, I'm bringing what I bring to the table. And all these guys with this many Grammys, they'd never written together before. The only reason they're in a room together is because I'm working on a record with a famous band that I'm trying to write for. And I'm like, I'm just going to put together a dream team. They're all like, awesome, let's go. Sure. So my self-awareness was like, hey, let me just build the best team in the world and we'll win. And dude, the songs that have come out of that collaboration have just been sick. I mean, you can't lose with guys this good. I mean, they've been doing it for thousands of hours every year for 20 years, and they have the success to prove it. That's fun. If you want to be great at something, go find your way into a room of people that are better than you. Jeff Bezos' principle: never hire someone you don't admire. Never work with somebody you don't admire if you can help it. And like, I had to work, like, to get into those rooms. I had to be super humble and be like, hey, look, I can't do what you do as well as you do, but I could bring this value to the table. How do you feel about that? And eventually I worked my way in, and now, like, I get some of the best rights in Nashville other people can't get because I bring my own value in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so I just had to learn, like, that's okay. So like, what is my unique ability? Let me just own that, bring that to the table. And it's shocking. It's a funny example of like when I was interviewing Kenny Chesney, we were talking about how like every great musician wants to be an athlete, and every great athlete wishes they could sing and play guitar, right? It's just own it. Just find a guy who can sing and play guitar better than you and do what you can do for him. And the same thing in business. It's just team building, like directing. I'm a director and producer. It's just building the best team possible. And when you build the best team possible, man, you got a hell of a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Figuring out what your role is, right? What your unique ability is, and then staying centered on it so you can be purposeful and intentional with it, not drifting. Because the world a lot of the world is trying to get you to drift.
Yep.
Social media, it's like it's pulling you off target. How far out in the future are you looking?
Well, we do annual planning and quarterly planning thanks to Strategic Coach. And so, about a quarter out. And then, we do EOS level 10 meetings. We do ours every Monday. I try not to travel on Mondays so I can be there for that. And, but the nicest thing about, like, I hate meetings, like, other than like, meetings at the bar or brainstorming creative meetings, like operational meetings, like, kill me now. Right. But I actually love the discipline of the level 10 meeting, because I can, if I'm on that meeting once a week, or even if I miss it, I can get the notes, and everyone knows their complete plan for the week. And only if there's a massive problem do I need to get involved. And then I go out. I only travel 7 nights a month because of my family for like the last 10 years. I break that every now and then. And I just have to, I have a bargain with my family. Like, if I got to break that and add another night, we'll talk about it. We'll do something cool. But like, when things started going well, I started traveling so much. My wife's like, hey. And we just had our third child, our third and final child, I think. And she's like, hey, I didn't stop to do this on my own. We like you around. So I travel about a night and a half a week, which is enough to be disruptive, but I'm not gone all the time, but it allows me to make sure the ship is running so that I can go out and have the freedom to do whatever it is I feel like I need to do to grow the business. And so like if I want to go to a concert or a golf tournament or something that you might normally get grief from your partner or spouse for it, I don't, because it's within my parameters. She's like, hey, as long as I'm not doing anything unethical or that would, throw shade at my family or cheating on my wife or, anything shady. So as long as I'm not doing that, I don't travel on weekends. I mean, every now and then I will, maybe once a year, but I don't miss the first day of school. I don't miss the last day of school. I don't miss birthdays. Like I got rules. Right. And so as long as I do, my wife's like, if you can spend 4 of your nights, if you go to a concert in the Bahamas if you want. That's how you want to spend your time. I don't care, And so it's nice to sort of set those parameters, and that's helped me a ton as well.
What about the future of your business? How far are you ahead are you looking, or like what is the vision for the future?
So it's really interesting because, they say to have like a 3-year and a 10-year target essentially, right? Which vision is great. And I'm not short on vision at all. The last few years, because since COVID, my business partner retiring, in a lot of ways, our business that's been operating for 17 years has become a startup again. So I feel like a 10-year target is not a bad idea to talk about, have a little bit of vision, but I don't spend a lot of time on it because I think my 10-year target is maybe more important in when a business in startup phase. Like, what do I want to not be doing anymore in 10 years from now? What do I not be worrying about? What do I want to be spending my time doing? I think I can spend more time there with just creating intention, knowing it's going to shift. It may not work out perfectly, but I got a plan. The 10-year target of the business we spend a little bit of time on. We spend a pretty good amount of time on every year at our annual on a 3-year target. It keeps shifting because we're in a bit of a shift in a startup phase and some other things. But so yeah, 1 to 3 years, but we really focus on this quarter, like, and to some extent I think we've learned maybe a little bit too myopically this quarter. So really for the most part, this quarter and how it affects this year, with we try to put a solid outline on a 3-year, knowing that we're still tweaking as we dial in. I'd say in a lot of ways this part of my journey for me is sort of like, you know, Nick 4.0 maybe, of like going through the different levels of the journey and now going, you know what? Here's what I should be doing. Here's what I shouldn't be doing. How do I need to prepare for that? How do I need to shake off some of the fear of letting go of something really good to continue climbing and thing that's great? And so I would expect my next decade will, I've continued to sort of rise in the documentary world, which I've really enjoyed. I think I'll do more of that. I'm getting into scripted feature films, which I don't know if I'm going to like or not. We're going to see. And but most likely moving out of some of the lower level, I'd say, services we offer now that have just always sort of cranked and been good. But I'm not dispassionate about serving those entrepreneurs anymore than I was originally, but you can only do so many things. And where my skill set seems to be greatest is having meaningful conversations that lead to produced outcomes. And the more connected, the more impactful people I can have those conversations with, the more effective I can be and the more change I can create in the world.
So I kind of laugh when you talking about that, because just knowing like 1 year or 10 years or whatever your years that you're measuring in is like dog years, right? The volume of things that you compact into time, but it kind of brings the conversation full circle because it's not an accident. You just mentioned again, kind of your unique ability. And like you said, I'm going to have an impactful, whenever I take any type of action, I want it to be impactful and lead to an outcome.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and that's why you get things done at the pace that you get them done, is you're like super purposeful. You always have been that since I've known you, which has been
Nice.
like, I don't know, 12 years, something like that, 14 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
We're getting older.
We got old together, but it's like, yeah, I think you've never lacked it with intention and purpose. And so you're able to make sure habitually when anything that's getting effort from you is there's an outcome expected. It's moving something. And I think that's important for people to recognize because it doesn't happen automatically for everybody.
No, that's a really good point. I think like I've always been like an achiever, like a completer, like, super ADHD in kindergarten, we'd have worksheets. And if we did the worksheet, we'd go to centers. And if we did every center you completed, you get a stamp. So I'd be like sleeved up with tattoos by the time I was done. So like, and again, every sword cuts both ways. Like that can be a monster too, right? Like running too much towards achievement and forgetting nurture for people. And like, so, you gotta find your balance in all of these things. I don't do it as intentionally as this, but I love the idea that, and maybe I do subconsciously, but yes, I'm always chasing something. I'm always, by the way, when I first started in business with Jack, and again, having that mentor who, even maybe things weren't as okay as he told me they were, I believed it, so it was okay, right? Like, there's really nice to have just good people around you. That's key. And so, one time I was getting real frustrated. Excuse me, that things weren't going fast enough. He's like, "Hey Nick, I see you get a little frustrated that like you can't achieve something today that you just decided about this morning." I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Well, look, I know you're a believer." He's like, "So let me just put it in our framework." He's like, "If you want God to work in your life, just remember you got to give him a little bit of elbow room." I was like, "Ooh, okay." And so one things I've had to learn. So I will say I try to take. I don't have an exact percentage of time, but I try to take some of my time. Like I will, it has to be on my schedule. But if someone asks kindly and politely and they're a good person, I will sit down for lunch or an hour on Zoom or whatever with any student of high school, college, another entrepreneur, someone's nephew, someone getting started in business. I will always make time for people because we all got extra time. We're all busy, but we got time that we could fill with that, right? So I will always do that. But I also try to go like, I've been invited to speak at events and stuff, and I'm like, well, I don't even know why I'm going to this except for I like the person I said yes. But like typically when I do, and by the way, I remove myself from the typical day to day of my business, the nitty gritty, and I get on a plane and I go somewhere and I spend some time with someone I hadn't spent time with, like opportunity shows up. So I'd always encourage people like be intentional about what you need to accomplish, but like leave some time for God to have elbow room because there's always a plan bigger than you can see. And whatever your faith is, whatever you believe, I believe everyone could probably buy into that. Like you don't know the whole plan. So you should be intentional. You got to make sure you block and tackle. And by the way, if you can't pay your mortgage, if you can't feed your family, like block and tackle only as much as you need to, right? So make things healthy, but leave room for that exploration, leave room for that wonder and excitement. And I don't know what's going to happen. And that's where some of the most magical things happen. Dan Sullivan is intentional. He says, I wake up every morning and with a plan the night before for the 3 things I'm going to accomplish that day. And he goes, sometimes fire happens. I can't accomplish all 3 of those or whatever. But for the most part, if you just said, tomorrow, I'm going to accomplish 3 things, and these are the 3 most important things, you'll find for the most part, you accomplish the 3 most important things in an hour or 2. And by the end of every week, you've accomplished 15 important things. If you do that, you'll be the most productive person you've ever met. Like life will just work well, like because you're doing the important things rather than just letting the schedule get filled with the stuff. And so I love that idea. I'm way less disciplined than that, but I think, subconsciously and sort of my style has been like pushing. I've been very, very good at juggling a lot of balls. I just have been good at that by having good teams, but I'm very good at making sure that every project nothing's getting stalled. Cause I've learned if you stop spinning the plate long enough, it's going to fall. So I got to make sure I go spin that plate and spin that plate and spin that plate and spin that plate and check in with that guy and that plate that's spinning. And, that for me is fun. It can get stressful, but it's fun. And, the good news is I've gotten to the point where there's not many plates I have to spin myself. I just got to make sure that person is spinning that plate still. And if they're struggling with spinning that plate, how can I help them? And that's like a nice place to be. Last thing I think is a really interesting perspective. When we first started the business, Jack asked me a question when I was going out on the road, speaking a lot. He said, hey, you got to make a decision. It's not an instant decision, but in life, do you want to be the quarterback? You're going to get all the glory. Right. You can get all the glory if you hit that touchdown pass. You can get some criticism, if you missed the pass, but you get all the glory. Or do you want to be the coach? Like, do you want to, you might not get paid as much as a quarterback, but like you get to like work with all the people, or do you want to be the owner? So you want to be the quarterback of the team, the coach of the team, you want to be the owner of the team. It's like, there's not a right answer in there, but it's like a really interesting perspective of like, what would make you happy? Like instant gratification as a quarterback might make you happy for a while, but like, man, you can bail out you as a coach, you can maybe have a little less stress because you can replace that quarterback if there's a problem. So it's just, I thought that was a really interesting way to sort of look at business and life.
It is. What was your answer?
I said, well, I'm clearly being the quarterback right now, which is where I need to be. Like, that's what I have to do right now. I would prefer, and he was being my coach. I'm like, but in a lot of ways, man, I mean, I think that for me, that I was saying, I want to be the owner. Like, I want to have diversification in my talent, diversification in my income streams. Like, quarterback, you got an insurance policy, hopefully, but if you get injured, I mean, I guess now you can go be a Fox commentator for Brady, I guess. But, it's for me, I'd like to be the owner. And it doesn't mean you can't be the owner and have active roles in certain things, which is where it's really fun. You control, you get all the pressure too, right? And all the financial strain, but you can choose where you want to put yourself in as quarterback. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a fun, so I'd say the owner for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick, you're fantastic, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you've taught me over time and you've been willing to come here and share. It's very valuable.
Of course, man. Likewise, great to see you, and I'm glad you're doing well. And it's been a long time since them days at the Brown Hotel.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found the show valuable, you can say thanks and show your support simply by taking a quick second to like, share, and comment on the show. You can also find more information about each of my guests, all of the resources from the show, and myself at nickberry.info/TBOJ.